In this video, I want to take a look at how we can compute a bunch of the basic statistics from Chapter 3, like the mean and the median, quartiles, standard deviations, and so on. How we can do that in Excel to make things go a little bit faster. So this is a data set that I just made up. It's actually one I think that was one of your homework problems, and I just copied it directly from a homework problem in Chapter 3 somewhere. In this case, we have our list of pieces of data over here, and I want to compute a bunch of statistics for this. So I want to compute things like the mean, the median, maybe the standard deviation, and we can do both the standard deviation as treating it though it were a sample, and the standard deviation treating it as though it were the population. So I'm just going to type these in right now. I'm not doing anything mathematical. I'm just typing in labels for the numbers that I want to find. And then maybe we want to find the quartiles. So maybe Q1, Q2, which is the same as the median, so we will have already found it, and Q3. So here's a bunch of statistics that I want to compute on this data set. And I'll now show you what the functions are that we need to actually call in Excel in order to do that. So let's start up here with the mean. I'm just going to do it in this box next to the word mean so that we have room and that we can see what I'm doing a little bit. So whenever we type a function into Excel, we start off with an equal sign. And so that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to type in an equal sign. And then as I start typing a word of a function that I'm interested in, Excel will offer up sort of suggestions for autocomplete, what it thinks I want. You don't actually type in the mean in this case. It gives you all these other options. But the more common word that we use for the mean is average. And it turns out average is the word that we're looking for here. So if I start to type average, you'll notice it starts to offer me a bunch of things. It's the second one I want right here. So I'm just going to type it all the way out. You notice it offers it in all capitals. I typed in lowercase. It isn't going to care whether we use lowercase or capitals. So it asks for the average. And if I select that and double click it, it will also bring up the average. It'll retype it all in caps for me. And it has a parentheses and the cursor is ready to go, waiting for me to tell it what to compute an average of. And we have two options that we can do here. I can either go over to my list and simply click and drag to highlight the entire list. And you'll notice it will fill in for me the starting point and end point on my list. So it went from A2, that's where this number was, box 1, all the way down to A26, where the last number 38 was. I could also manually type these numbers in. And again, it's not going to care if I use capital or lowercase. I'll close the parentheses, and if I simply hit enter at that point, it will spit out the average for me. So this is the mean of this list of numbers. And it should match exactly if you were to do this on the TI-84 calculator. It should give you the same result. For the median, we have a couple of options. So again, I'm going to start by typing an equal sign. And this time it turns out median is an option. So if I start typing median, you'll notice it's right there. I can double click on it. And this time I'll manually type in. Again, I want to go from A2 all the way to A26. So I'm going to type those in by hand without dragging the cursor. So I'm going to do A, lowercase, doesn't matter, 1, and then a colon to say sort of the word 2. So I'm going from A1, colon means 2, A26. And you'll notice as I do that, oh, and I didn't want to go from A1, you'll notice that A1, this one up here is actually blank. It's not going to care, but just to be safe, let me be careful and actually highlight the exact ones I want. And you'll notice as I change the number as I type, if I change this to 28, the highlighting instantly goes down to the 28th box. So you'll see it happen, and it'll auto-capitalize for you after you hit enter anyways. So we don't care about capitals. But I'm going to go from A2 to A26, and if I hit enter, boom, there's the median. It gives me the median of this list of numbers. If I want to compute the standard deviations, what is the formula for that? So for this one, I'm going to hit the equal sign, and I'm going to start typing standard deviation, ST And you'll notice these two right here, the second and third, STDEVP and STDEVS. STDEVP is the population standard deviation I want to use, and STDEV.S is the sample one. So I can just copy that and hit my parentheses, and I want to do it from, again, A2 all the way up to A26. I can type those in, or I can drag, sort of click and drag the same way I did earlier. And if I hit enter, there is the sample standard deviation of that list if we were to be treating it as a sample. If this list represents the entire population, I would want to compute the population standard deviation. And to do that, I will do equals STDEV P, let me double click it, and same thing, let me do another one, drag and dropping, so I will just drag, and it highlights them, and my parentheses, hit enter. There is what the standard deviation is, treating this as a population. And now we can find quartiles. And with quartiles, I want to warn you, the way that Excel computes quartiles is different from the way the TI-84 calculates them, and it's different from the formula we learned in class. So just know that if you're using this on the homework and it asks for quartiles, if you try to use Excel, you're probably going to get the wrong answer. The details of how Excel does it are a little bit, it would take another 10-minute explanation, so I don't want to jump into that in too much detail, but just know it's going to give you different numbers. In general, they should be pretty close to the ones that you would get if you did this by hand or if you did this on a calculator. And on an exam, for example, if I asked for quartiles and you were allowed to use a spreadsheet like this, I would take the numbers if you got them off a calculator, or I would also take the numbers if you got them using Excel, even if they were different numbers. I'd count both of those as correct. So just know that even if you wind up using Excel or a spreadsheet like Excel on the exams, that's totally fine if you get different numbers for the quartiles versus if you were to be using a calculator, which you will also be allowed to use if you have one. So for the quartiles, I'm going to hit the equal sign again and start typing quartiles. And you'll notice first thing up here is quartile.exe. There also is quartile.inc. I don't really know what the difference is. So I'm just going to pick the top one and just say double click it. In fact, actually, let's do the bottom one. I want to just do quartile. This is the one I want. Let's see. I have no idea. Okay, inclusive versus exclusive. Okay. I'm just going to type quartile, and I think that will work fine. Again, I will type in or drag and drop and tell me which data points I want to use. And then it requires a second. You'll notice if we read down here, it's going to require two things. It requires an array of numbers. That's what the numbers are that I've highlighted. And then I have to do a comma and tell it which quartile I want. And in this case, I want the first quartile. So I'll do a comma and the number 1 to tell it I want the first quartile. And I'll close my parentheses and hit enter. And it tells me 9 is the first quartile in this case. And if I do the same thing down here for the second quartile, again, start typing quartile. Let me just double click that one. Same array. But now, because it's the second quartile, I want to do comma 2 and hit enter. And notice we get the same thing for the second quartile as we got for the median. They're the same values in this case. For the third quartile, we'll do the same thing. Hit equal sign, start typing the word quartile. It'll suggest some auto completions. I'll select the array and do comma 3 for the third quartile and hit enter. And there is its suggestion for the third quartile. So again, if you're doing these on the graphing calculator, you may get slightly different results than doing them the way that we just did in Excel. The homework will mark you off if it's asking you to use a calculator and you use Excel and the numbers are off. It'll mark you wrong. But on an exam, I will not care. So just keep that in mind. For the homework, you may want to double check your numbers with one of the calculator apps. And on the exam, there will be a spreadsheet that you can use if you don't want to purchase a calculator. And I will accept the answers from Excel as the correct answers in that case as well. So it won't matter. So this is sort of a basic rundown. We'll make other videos down the line showing you how to compute other important statistics, but these cover pretty much all the same statistics that the TI-84 graphing calculator spits out. So I just wanted to go over those same set of numbers.